When Bruce Timm, Eric Radomski, and Andrea Romano were casting for Batman the Animated Series, they made a crucial decision. They'd steer clear of typical cartoon voices. While career voice actors were given prominent roles on the show, most notably Lauren Lester as Robin, Batman's world would be populated by character actors, many of them new to animation and playing against type. The shining example of this would be Mark Hamill, the virtuous Luke Skywalker of Star Wars, who memorably turned to the dark side to voice what many consider to be the definitive version of the Joker. But I throw another example into the mix. Richard Moll, the voice of Harvey Dent, better known as Two-Face. Now, Moll was known early on for roles as a heavy in film and television. But to most audiences, he was dim-witted bailiff Bull Shannon on NBC's Night Court from 1984 to 1992.
Well, I cannot believe this article on tax shelters. It says here the IRS will let you invest in anything from racehorses to windmills to bull semen.
I gave blood. That's as far as it goes.
Night Court was wrapping up when Moll came on board for BTAS. So he was almost as much of a left field pick as Mark Hamill. The episode we'll be looking at today, Two-Face Part 1, is not the first episode of the series to feature Dent. He makes a few appearances prior to this, but it is the first episode that fully explores his character. Gotham DA Harvey Dent's career is firing on all cylinders. He's spearheading a number of raids to help alleviate Gotham's everlasting crime problem. He's cruising to re-election, and he's about to marry his fiancée, Grace. But all is not well with Harvey. He has what is now called dissociative identity disorder, and another personality is bubbling to the surface. This is Big Bad Harv, a deep-throated, intimidating presence who is not afraid to use violence to get his way. On Bruce Wayne's advice, Harvey seeks therapy, and the sessions appear to be going well. But Rupert Thorne, one of the many crime bosses in Gotham and a major target of Dent, finds out about it. He gets Harvey's records and opts to blackmail him, setting up a climactic confrontation. It doesn't go well. Dent survives the explosion, but is horribly scarred physically and mentally. And the scene where he discovers how extensively damaged he is, for my money, one of the signature shots of the entire DC animated universe.
Harvey, what happened? Harvey.
Goodbye, Grace.
While this is Batman the Animated Series, Harvey Dent is the protagonist of this episode. Batman's appearances are relatively fleeting. Bruce Wayne actually has more screen time. This episode is Moll's finest performance, I think, because he is asked to do so much from the very first scene, and he delivers in spades. A lot of praise is heaped on the performances of Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill, deservedly so. But I always thought that Moll's turn as Two-Face is just as good. The higher authoritarian good guy voice of his Harvey Dent persona contrasts so well with the deep, sinister tones of Big Bad Harv. And it's remarkable to consider that both sounds are coming from the same throat.
Harvey Dent.
No! Keep away! Leave me alone!
And it really does drive home the pathos of this character. The Dent persona is not a facade. This is not a slimy CEO like Ferris Boyle of Heart of Ice. He is a white knight, trying to save Gotham in a way that doesn't involve dressing up as a giant bat. And because this is Gotham, a place where optimism withers and dies, he succumbs. This is one of the first properties to use the modern version of Two-Face, as conceived by DC Comics editor Andrew Helfer. By making Two-Face explicitly an alternate personality, it adds a deeper, far more tragic dimension to what was previously just a simple gangster obsessed with the concept of twos. It's one of the many smart decisions that the producers adapted from Batman's long history in the comics. The episode's story is credited to BTAS story editor Alan Burnett, while the teleplay is handled by Randy Rogel. Burnett is probably the unsung hero of the series, coming on board after the previous story editor had one too many clashes with producers Bruce Timm and Eric Radomski. Burnett had worked on Batman before. He was on staff at the tail end of Super Friends' run, and he scripted The Fear, a great episode of the final season, and the very first time that Batman's origin was depicted outside of the comics. Randy Rogel is, in contrast, not a name we'd quickly associate with this series, despite writing 8 scripts. A musician, he was actually interested in a comedy show that WBA was starting up around this time. But his Batman credits made the producers wary. He wrote a song anyway and contributed it. The song?
And now, the nations of the world, brought to you by Yakko Warner.
United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru.
If you weren't around during this time, you have no idea how big Yakko's world got. Needless to say, Rogel became a huge part of the Animaniacs crew, their resident songwriter in fact, and he is one of the few staffers from the previous version of the series to work on the 2020 reboot. Kevin Altieri would be one of the show's most prolific directors, helming 22 episodes of the first 2 seasons, including many classics like On Leather Wings, The Demon's Quest, and Harley's Holiday. He left the DCAU team after the initial run of the show, producing a direct-to-video adaptation of Wildstorm's Gen 13 for Disney that never saw wide release. He also directed 4 episodes of the way too good for this world Spectacular Spider-Man. Two-Face Part 1 is the first BTAS episode in production order to be animated by TMS, largely considered to be the top tier of all the studios that WBA worked with in the 90s. Their Batman work is the obvious highlight. It's probably not their best Batman work, though. It's a little sloppy in a way that it typically doesn't get later on, but it is a great start. Poses are strong and effective, expressions are sharp, personality oozes out of each frame. Unfortunately, TMS didn't do part 2, and that honestly is a problem with this 2-parter as a whole. Part 1 is by far the strongest part of the story, the strongest animation, the strongest voice work are all present in this episode. And unfortunately, almost nothing was left for the conclusion. Part 2 is not bad. Dong Yang steps in and provides some decent animation work, and there is a wonderful dream sequence for Batman early on in the episode. But it feels way more like the baseline of the series. And the baseline's not bad, but Two-Face soars to some pretty remarkable heights. It punches well above that baseline, and it's a better episode for it. Moll would continue to voice Two-Face throughout the DCAU, and like Mark Hamill, he became an in-demand voice actor in the years afterwards. His most prominent role after this would be as the bodyguard Norman in the beloved cult classic 1993's Mighty Max. He'd also take on the role of Scorpion in the final 2 seasons of the 94 Spider-Man cartoon, and he'd even return to DC for Batman Brave and the Bold in 2010, particularly the episode Chill of the Night. He entered a deserved semi-retirement before his passing on October 26, 2023, at the age of 80. While most mainstream obituaries led with his performance in Night Court, for me and countless other Batman fans, he was Harvey Dent. His towering performance is one of the highlights of the DCAU, and it was a treat whenever he showed up. It's a tremendous loss, but we'll always have the performances. Thank you, Richard.